Rachel Boston and Andrew W. Walker are two of my favourite kind of Hallmark Lifetime Christmas film actors, and to have them both in the Lifetime film A Christmas in Tennessee definitely made me quite excited. This is the 2018 film that was directed by Gary Yates and written by Cassie, and I love the narrative from this. So the description from IMDb is as follows. A baker unites the people of her small mountain town to stop a real estate developer. This is a pretty stereotypical narrative that I've seen in many films like this, where a small business owner rallies to stop a large real estate developer from buying out the properties, obviously bulldozing them or turning them into upmarket properties that people just can't afford. And yet, despite the fact that I've seen this many times over, I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. And let's all take a moment to say how much Caroline Rhea looks amazing as Mrs. Claus. I absolutely love her. I mean, I love her in anything, but I particularly adore her in this. But even if she wasn't in this, still really enjoyable. The narrative is pretty simple. There's not much else to say about it. Allison owns a bakery, and she has a young daughter, Olivia, played by Kate Moyer, who is adorable. And Olivia actually has quite a strong role in bringing some support for the bakery. I won't say anything about that, but it's pretty funny, and Allison must have felt a lot of embarrassment. Obviously, against the backdrop of this narrative, we have this relationship that's also kind of not the most positive. There's quite some animosity there between Allison and Matthew. Matthew, played of course by Andrew W. Walker, who is there to check out the location and offer obviously a large sum of money. Now, what's particularly interesting about this is the only way in which they can develop on this land is if one of two people sign over their rights. It's quite interesting. Everything was passed down to these descendants, Allison being one of them, but only one of those two people need to agree to this. She is obviously refusing. The other person looks like they're not going to do it, but the direction that this is going to take is not necessarily the most obvious. I really adored this. And I have to say, one thing that I loved about this so much is Caroline Rhea's costumes. That sounds like a really superficial thing to like about this film. But when she first walks into the bakery, I didn't know she was in this film. Also, that's worth pointing out. I had no idea she was in this, and I was watching it, and then in walks Caroline Rhea, and I lost my mind because she looks incredible. She doesn't actually introduce herself as Mrs. Claus, but she looks amazing. Her hair is gorgeous. She has on these little spectacles. Her outfit's very festive. Beautiful, beautiful. Really, she made this from a good film into an amazing film. And if you're a fan of Caroline Rhea, I think you will absolutely adore her as Mrs. Claus. But even if you took her out of this, the narrative's fantastic. Olivia as a character is brilliant. I love what she brings to the narrative. I really adored it. Absolutely fantastic. Even though the narrative sounds cliche, and like a lot of other films that I've seen, there are just several things in this. The character of Olivia, Caroline Rhea, Allison as a protagonist I really liked. Obviously Rachel Boston and Andrew W. Walker as fantastic casting. So many things in this that make it a cut above the other films that are similar. A Christmas in Tennessee really is a beautiful film.